Welcome to the Hats and Bats podcast with Kevin and Matt.
Episode 4.
Yes,
the
sir.
Hats and Bad podcasts with Matt and Kevin.
What's
Kevin,
going on?
happy
What's
holidays.
going on? What's going on? No,
Holiday.
it's a holiday?
Of course it's a holiday. What holiday is today?
Oh, I think, is it the holiday of holidays? The fact that Jackson Holiday got called up, and now the Orioles are just collectively probably the most talented team, at least in the American League anyways.
I'm so jealous. It's like seeing all the videos that they just recently posted of like him playing with Matt and Matt tossing to him. I saw a tweet from Buster Only from like 2012 saying he was going to be a stud in like 2012. I'm like, I'm envious. I'm envious of the Orioles.
It's amazing. You know, on my podcast I did last night with Joe, This Is the Week, I was trying to tell him, because he's like a baseball novice. Like, I'm slowly like getting him to fall back in love with baseball again. And, you know, he's going off and he's ripping off all these guys in the 90s that he loved, like the Gary Sheffields of the world and Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa's. And I go, you know, the one thing that I loved about the 90s were like these all-star lineups I feel like we saw all the time. Like when you think about those old school Cleveland Indian teams in the mid-90s with Bell and Manny and Tomei, or the 90s Mariners teams with Griffey, A-Rod, Edgar, Jay Buhner. This Orioles lineup, based on its talent and its youth and its depth, could rival, I think, any one of those lineups. Now, they haven't achieved what those teams obviously went on to achieve, but the talent's there, and that's what makes them just so incredibly compelling. And you're right, Jackson Holiday coming up, I think, just solidifies this group. It's really, really exciting.
The fact that he's 20 years old and the development, the size of his arms. Did you see the video where they told him he was coming up?
Yeah.
His arms, like, I feel like when he got drafted, he looked like my arms, and now I'm like, the dude's like chiseled. Still got the baby face, but you know he's going to be big time when Cal Ripken Sr. is like, my number 7, you can have that. That told me everything I needed to know. The kid's just going to be a stud. I have it on MLB TV. I put in a little
I have it right here too.
Parlay.
Yep.
Where I have him hitting a home run. I have the Orioles winning. It was
nice.
Little so
I have one.
He's hitting in the 9th spot though.
I
a lot of bats.
I have one where he gets a single and a stolen base, and like Rushman gets a single and the Orioles win.
I know this isn't part of our script, and I know we said we want to keep this short. What do you think his ceiling is? Do you think he's what's he going to be like? Is he an Acuna?
I mean, based on what the pundits are saying, they're saying he has really no ceiling. I think when you look at his projections, I don't know if he ever has I don't think he's necessarily gonna be a 40 home run guy, but I also don't want to put that ceiling on him either. Let's put it this way. He should be a top 5 middle infielder for the next 10 to 12 years. You know, that's my expectation of him. What his average season is and who he would compare to. Again, I think because of his speed, he'll hit more at the top of the lineup. He won't have the same RBI production. I'm a little hesitant to say he's going to be Ronald Acuna. You know, to me, when I look at Gunnar Henderson, for example, Gunnar Henderson to me is, you know, a multi-time all-star. He's going to probably average close to 20 to 25 homers per season. He's going to flirt, I think, around the 300 batting average at times, and he's going to play really good defense. I think Jackson Holiday's better at Gunnar Henderson at almost everything. So what could that mean? What could that look like? I'm not really sure. But I'm a little hesitant if you're saying that he's Ronald Acuna. I'm a little hesitant to say he'll be that. Could I be incredibly wrong? Of course I could. And I don't think it would shock anyone if that he was that, in fact, that good.
I love the swing. It's so compact. It's just such a beautiful. You can tell he's baseball brought up, baseball family, baseball genes. I just love it. We also had to go to our trivia. We also had the 323rd no-hitter in MLB history, and MLB leading 17th no-hitter in Astros history, which is just give me a break with that. You talk about Orioles and their prospects. The Astros is just like every other day there's a no-hitter. So that brings them up. So I figured I want to construct this trivia question around the whole idea of the no-hitter. So Ronel Blanco threw his no-hitter on April 1st. And again, I said 323rd in Major League history. Here's my trivia question for you, and I had to spice it up, even though I don't think this is really that difficult. You blew me away last time with all your trivia knowledge. But again, I'm not really surprised. So this is could be a softball. I just want to see how you do with it.
All right.
Which team we're talking here, was the last to throw their first no-hitter, and who was it? So which team was the last one to throw their first no-hitter, and who did it?
It's recent, isn't it?
It is very recent. Within the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's oh my God. I now know. I know for a fact that I'm not going to get the trivia question this week. Yeah. You definitely got me in it, but I know it was recent because now I'm just like racking through my brain here.
You want me to give you a hint?
No. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Give me a hint.
Okay. The hint: the team came into existence in 1969.
Is it 16? Oh. Whoa. Okay. Was it Seattle?
Not Seattle.
Okay.
Same coast.
San Diego.
San Diego Padres threw their first no-hitter on April 9th, 2021.
Wasn't
question.
Who was the guy who threw it? Wasn't you? It wasn't Musgrove.
I hate him. I hate him.
You hate the pitcher?
I hate the pitcher for a specific reason.
Is it Musgrove?
It is Musgrove. Why would I hate Musgrove?
Oh, because of what he did to the Mets.
What did he do to the Mets?
He dominated them. He dominated them in Game 3 of the wild card.
And cheated.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Nobody's ears are greasy like that. I'm as Italian as Italian. My ears do not become greasy like that.
Listen. That Mets collapse that year. Okay, that was just the cherry on the cake. I can't put that all on Musgrove. I can't even subscribe to the cheating conspiracy either. Listen, Scherzer got lit up in Game 1. I was fortunate enough to be there for Game 2. I saw DeGrom's last game in Citi Field. It was absolutely amazing. I'll never forget it. But I would very much like to forget Game 3 because Musgrove did. He dominated. He dominated the lineup. And it just solidified the collapse. Probably I don't know. Maybe not the last time for a while we'll be in the playoffs because I'm starting to feel a little optimistic about the Mets, but I think maybe we'll come back to that in our surprise section.
We'll hang on to that, yeah.
All right.
I'm pleasantly optimistic. So for segment 1, beat it out. Mm-hmm. We had the 21st City Connect get released this past week. The Mets are right in the precipice of releasing theirs on Friday.
Yep.
So the Philadelphia Phillies released their City Connect. I just want to, you know how I am with hats and uniforms, and I like eat this stuff up. When you first saw them, now these got kind of like released way back in January. There was actually an eBay posting. I guess like the shipping container that shipped these over actually got like hacked into. So like these surfaced like a long time ago, and I was like, there's no way that these are actually going to be their City Connect jerseys. But what did you see? What did you think when you first saw the Philly City Connect?
Too much. Too busy. I like the hat. The hat's fine. The color doesn't even bother me. Now, I understand the philosophy behind it was they're trying to connect all these historical Philadelphia things to their jersey. But if you're going more historical, you want to make these historical connections, then why do you not have more of a historical look to it as opposed to like this like futuristic look to it? It's just the jersey itself is like too shiny. It's too busy. And yeah, it's funny where my brain first went because on the pictures, you can make anything look good in pictures. You know, you got Bryce Harper there. You know, he's like glaring into the camera and, you know, you get the right angles. Everything looks great. But then Fanatics is going to make these pieces of trash. And how terrible are they going to look if they even get there? Because it was, 2 teams were supposed to get their City Connect jerseys this past week, And these are Major League Baseball teams, and Fanatics can't get it delivered to them. They're behind. And this is the quality control stuff. Yeah, that just blows me away. How does Major League Baseball at the end of this year not find a way to terminate their contract with Fanatics? Because this is a joke. The jerseys are awful. I know with City Connect, it's not Fanatics' fault for doing that part. But once we finally see them, I think they're going to look even worse because they have their hands on them.
Did you see the guy that slid into home yesterday? And completely
Riley Green, who's getting a little hot. He's getting on my fantasy team, getting a little hot. It's right down the seam. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's really bad because, again, like a big reason why we did this podcast, why we wanted to do it, was to focus on all the great positive things in the sport of baseball. And the one thing that you and I love so much, of course, are the hats. My new one here from, again, Capsule Hats. And, the jerseys and just everything behind it. And we start this podcast, and it's the worst it's ever been in our lives in terms of products that Major League Baseball is producing and Fanatics is producing. They have to figure out a way out of that contract.
They have to. They have to do something about it. I like it when teams go completely outlandish and get away from their typical identity, because that's what I feel like these are for. I feel like the NBA, when they introduced these, they went a little too extreme in the changing every year. It's like I'm watching a game, I'm like, I don't even know who's playing right now. And then it was just, that was too much. So I like them when they're just, okay, like the Phillies identity, red, white, and blue. And I like how they make the nod to the Philadelphia flag. I don't like transition. I don't like the going from like the light blue to the dark blue. Yeah. And I hate the marketing mumbo jumbo that they give. I'm like, listen, they're saying it's like, okay, it's a nod to the Philadelphia flag. Like, that's great. But they're saying it's like, I wrote some of these things down. So again, this is like their marketing mumbo jumbo that I put down. Just don't. I'm an English teacher. I search for meaning in everything. You don't have to search for meaning in these. It just says, and it goes from light to dark, because Philly has always been a place unafraid to revolutionize, to start anew, and to make a change. That's the transition, why they have it going from light blue to dark blue. Yeah. Like, English teacher in me makes me want to vomit a little bit. The text that you talked about. Now, when I first saw these, when they first got released, I'm like, these can't be real. I thought it was actually like graffiti lettering that they were trying to do.
Yes, me too.
Not graffiti at all. So the text font is to represent the historical documents. Like, you're the history teacher. Is the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, does it look like that?
Did not get any of that at all. And I've seen the Declaration of Independence in Washington, D.C. I mean, same thing with the Bill of Rights. Did not get that connection at all. Not at all.
I don't get it. And they have the sublimation inside of the numbering, inside of the lettering. That's supposed to represent like the crack in the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing like artwork here. We're making like these uniforms. I'm like, that to me is just too much. And then all of those make me want to puke. But when they started talking about the actual logo on the sleeve, so it's just a circular logo on the sleeve. It's got the typical, like the Philadelphia love sign. Except it's L, the Liberty Bell, VE. Like, that to me, okay, that's fine. But then they go even like a little bit deeper with it. The stitching, so they have it based on a baseball. The stitching that's on the baseball, it's because the Phillies are stitched into the DNA of Philadelphia.
It's like they had a Mad Lib, and they just tried to fill in as many like Philadelphia-related words as they could think of.
Yep.
But Matt, I wanted to pose this question to you. So obviously you're not a fan of what the Phillies are doing with these City Connect jerseys.
I like the idea. I don't like the execution.
Would you not make the argument that out of all these City Connect jerseys, most of them have missed? There are a couple really nice ones. Like, I liked Pittsburgh was simple. It worked. Colorado was different, but it worked. That was a home run. Cincinnati liked a lot. Again, simple. Change a few things with the lettering. Change a few things with the logo. That's good enough. These ones that are just so wild and just so, again, I think is out of touch. I don't know. I'm not feeling this one. And then the other day when they teased the Mets and the purple popped up, and I'm like, guys, like purple. The whole reasoning behind the colors of the Mets is the combination of what New York lost with the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's why we're blue and we're orange. And yes, black has worked very well, but again, black goes along with the old New York Giants. Now we're going purple. I mean, are we going to have a Batman logo? Like, what is their plan? But see, I don't know. I don't think of myself as a traditionalist, but you don't have to go so big to have like these things look nice. Like I feel like if you're going too creative, you lose sight of this. And I think they lost sight of what these Philadelphia City Connect jerseys were supposed to look like.
It's funny when you bring up the Mets because when I first saw purple, now I like the color purple, but I'm thinking it's too close to blue. And then again, with like the whole history of like the choosing of the Mets colors, I think it really depends. We'll have to see what actually ends up happening. Obviously, it's going to be a nod to the 7 train. Like obviously, like that's what they're going with it. I really want to see how they execute this. I saw a whole bunch of like renditions on like TikTok and Twitter where they were using like the actual like circle from the 7-line logo. Like that's going to be like the numbers on the back of the jerseys. It's going to be really interesting what they do with these. And I almost want to kind of do like an emergency pod or throw something on like Instagram or something after, just like a real quick, like a reveal here. Because absolutely. I feel like now if I was designing the Mets uniform, when I think of New York, the very first thing I think of is the Statue of Liberty and that color that of like the oxidized statue. Like I love that color. That color to me is so unique. When I think of like the New York Liberty from the WNBA, I wanted them to go in that direction. I'm like, if you did like that color with like a bronze, it stands out. It's unique. The only other real team in the MLB that uses that color scheme are the Diamondbacks and the Padres when they do their City Connect. I feel like that is so untapped. But I'm like, of course they're going to go black and purple, which why do you have the black jersey anyway? Is that like you're not going to go black, you're going to go completely purple? It could go completely off the rails. It could go completely awesome. But I don't have any faith in them whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I'm anticipating, that they just go, again, too big, too bold, when you don't have to. Again, like, to me, baseball uniforms and logos are so iconic. You know, and again, I'm not opposed to new things and new interpretations, but it's almost like, are you just going big just to go big? Or really, what is the vision? Because like right after you read what they were trying to do for the Phillies, it's like, no, guys, it just sounds like you tried too hard, and you don't need to do that.
Have you bought any City Connect hats?
No, actually, I have not. I wanted to buy the 47 brand Rockies one. I just never ended up pulling the trigger on it. The Reds one, I thought about it, but never ended up doing that either. My mom really liked the Boston Red Sox one with the blue and light blue and the gold. Like I think I got her like a sweatshirt or something like that when those came out. But yeah, that's it. What about you?
So I'm thinking off the top of my head. So I have Boston, I have Cincy, I have Colorado, I have the Angels, Pittsburgh, San Diego, the Giants.
Wow.
And Washington. So I have a lot.
Wow.
So we're like the main demographics they're going for. Me, they hit because I have to have every single on-field. You, though, you're like, no, I don't want to do that, which I feel like you're one of their main consumers.
And it's funny because so let's take this again, for example. Again, this is from Capsule Hats because I think every episode now my goal is just to promote them. Now, this is a Cincinnati Reds hat. But the only thing that you would be able to identify with the Cincinnati Reds is the logo itself. All the colors are different. You got a little like this metallic blue for the hat. You have a grayish brim, and you have this peach UV. Like, to me, that is a creative interpretation of what you could do with the Reds. Like a different color scheme you can do that works. I mean, imagine them having a jersey to go along with this. I think that's creative. I think that's cool. Like, that's a good marketing pitch. Like, you look at all the big hat companies that do well, Hat Club, Lids HD, capsule hats, crown-minded. It's all everything we're talking about. Different interpretations of these classic, iconic logos. And the best ones are the ones that are not too busy, the ones that don't try too hard. I mean, I could go through my entire collection over here, and like I have a Mets hat that's brown and orange. I have this Reds hat here. I have a Pirates hat that's white with a blue brim with the pirate on front. Like there's those things you can do, and people are already doing them. I almost wish, like, instead of coming up with these like brand new concepts, go to the companies who are already hitting it out of the park with their redesigns and then design a jersey off of that. I mean, doesn't that make more sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I ranked the teams quickly.
Ooh.
So with the Phillies, now again, I don't think the Phillies, I would never look at it and be like, that's egregious. Like, just get rid of the superfluous crap. But I would say that the Phillies are better than the D-backs, the gold brownish with the serpentines.
Yeah, wasn't a fan.
The Orioles, the all black. The only thing I liked about that was the sleeve, where they had like that little hint of color on the sleeve.
Yeah,
didn't care for that.
Yeah, the hat was boring. It reminded me too much of like the Bengals.
Correct. I like the letter, the B letter, but the hat to me did nothing.
Yeah.
The Cubs with Wrigleyville written across it didn't do anything. The Royals, I felt like there was prime stuff that they could have done with like the fountains.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. The Royals are just like blah. Again, it doesn't stand out. And if I was just to see it as a casual, it doesn't do anything. The Giants, I like what they tried to do with like the fog and the mist and all of that coming across like the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
The execution was hot garbage. The Rangers, to me, I could fall asleep on that. The Dodgers was probably the worst one with the black and the blue. So those are the ones I thought the Phillies were better than. The ones I thought they were equal with, the Braves. Did you see the Braves game the other night with the faux Hank Aaron? I wish it didn't say the A. Like,
right.
It's just
but again, it's a classic look. That's why it works.
And I was talking to Josh about it because we're playing Fortnite when that was on. He hated the look. He's like, that's ugly. But to each their own.
It's
so I thought
70s.
they were on par with the Braves, the Astros. I like the Angels. I think it's simplistic. It represents South Carolina.
That's another one. That's one of the few ones I actually like. Absolutely. And I love the A logo with the crown on it. I mean, that's just – it's a very underrated logo. Like when they do like the lowercase a, I'm not as big of a fan of that. But yeah, like right there, like I love that. I do. That would be one of my top ones.
I saw one where they actually put like a little bit of a surfboard over here.
Nice.
Why didn't they include something like that? I would have loved that.
That would have been cool.
They're equal with the Braves, Houston, the Angels, the Brewers with the Brew Crew. I thought it was like a fun little twist with everything. Pittsburgh. I just didn't like the PGH across the chest. I don't like the abbreviations.
Yeah.
And Seattle was fine to me.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, I feel like everything you just got done, all those teams you just went through. Because I know you like Washington, right?
Those are on my.
Well, yeah. What are the ones you like? But I feel like even before we get to those, more often than not, these have missed. They haven't been great. There's a few really good ones, and most of them are nothing to write home about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll go real quick with the ones that these are my pantheon. I am one of the only ones that like the Red Sox ones just because the Boston Marathon.
I like it.
I love that.
I thought that was cool.
I love the color scheme. It works for them because that race is so ingrained in that city with all like the trauma that happened. Absolutely love it. I like the White Sox. I think that one was South Side in the black and white pinstripes. Love that. Cincy I like too.
Yep.
I wish it was a little bit stood out a little bit more. Sometimes it's hard to see. The Rockies to me is like a great alternative branding, and you mentioned that before.
Yeah, I loved it.
Green's perfect for
that's
that.
That's my favorite. I almost wish that was just an alternate jersey, not just like that. That's taking like they just wore it more often.
Yeah. And then Miami is good. I like the
heritage
that's it's in that. Again, it doesn't do anything. It's not fantastic, but it's different. I like that. I feel like that represents Miami. San Diego is probably one of my favorite ones. I know it's loud. I know it looks like a highlighter. It's just so different, but it's San Diego.
But it's San Diego. That's why it works. Absolutely.
Exactly. And then the Blue Jays. And I thought the Blue Jays things were good as well. And then we still don't have, we don't even have the Blue Jays. I meant to say Washington. Washington's to me is my favorite one.
Yep.
And then we still got to come. We got the Guardians this year, the Tigers. We have a new Dodgers coming. We have the Twins. We got Mets on Friday, and then we got the Blue Jays.
Yep.
And, of course, the Yankees got to be the Yankees and won't do it. And then
Too
the A's
classy,
don't
baby.
have a city. So you can't have a city connect.
Oh, my God.
City. So
yeah.
Speaking of the A's.
Let's segue into that.
Segment 2, we're going to round second.
Yep.
Those poor fans in Oakland.
It's an absolute tragedy.
It's a joke. John Fischer needs to be blasted into the moon.
When he gave that interview and he talked about, oh my God, he talked about, people from Sacramento can come and watch great players, even if they're not Oakland Athletics. Come watch the likes of Aaron Judge. I'm like, wow. Listen, I have no problem with you saying Aaron Judge, but doesn't it almost feel like you're not even watching baseball? Like, you couldn't have rattled off more than just Aaron Judge. Like, you couldn't have said Ronald Acuna. You couldn't have said Shohei Ohtani as like, the biggest star in the sport. Like, I really wonder, does this guy even watch baseball at all?
Okay, so get this. Guess the last time he was at a baseball game.
Well, we're going, more than a year ago? More than 2 years ago?
Just over a year ago. You're the owner of a franchise. You haven't been to a game since April 19th of 2023.
Yeah, it's gross. It's gross.
So he's a Gap fund. So his parents he set up like the Gap, and then that's where he got all this money from.
Yeah.
Take your money and just get out of baseball. You are an absolute joke. You're a step below like John Sterling on how like the worst owners in professional sports.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we're to a point now where how have we not heard? Because I'm done being angry with John Fischer. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done about John Fischer. Our anger should now be going towards Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball owners collectively. How are you allowing this to happen in your sport? How is this okay? But we say money. How is this a money-making plan?
Because they think Las Vegas is going to be like, we're going to go to Vegas, we're going to get embraced.
But that's still only a possibility. That is not in stone, and that is not until 2029. So you're going to let this team hemorrhage money for the next 3, 4, 5 years with the hope that Vegas will still take this owner and his track record and turn it into a profitable organization? And how long do you want to wait for that to happen? I mean, do you really think it's just going to be instant? They're going to bring a baseball team there, and it's a if you build it, they will come situation? It's Las Vegas. There's a lot to do in Las Vegas. So if the city itself is already showing hesitancy about this owner, about this group coming to their city, what makes you guys think that the fans themselves are going to come, watch, and support this team in 5 years?
What's going to be there to actually root for? What are you going to watch? What are you going to be invested in? There is nothing. He has completely destroyed that franchise. Now, I when I was doing like my research, did you hear the whole thing about them sending down the guy that led the team in stolen bases last year?
Esteury Ruiz, yes.
So they apparently there's like a 7 line that the Mets have. There's this one group that's run out of Oakland where they're basically like merchandise, and they were actually licensed by the Oakland A's.
Yep.
When this whole thing was going down, they had bracelets that they created. It was like, this is like a travesty. Those players were wearing those bracelets, and then magically one gets sent down. Their all-star ends up getting benched, and it's like, are you that petty now where that's the direction you're going with your team? They're just completely destroying everything.
Well,
and then to move into that stadium, like, it's like, what are you doing?
Did you see the memo?
Which memo?
There was a memo that I guess got dropped on the ground in Oakland. I guess a fan picked it up and took a picture of the memo. And it was obviously for the people who work in the Coliseum in Oakland. And it gave specific instructions about how to deal with the fans. And it said things like, never mention the word Oakland. Just refer to us as the Athletics. People are going to be possibly upset because of the team and the fact that basically we're leaving. Try your best to make it as enjoyable as a situation as ever. But basically, if you see anything Oakland related, remove it or find someone to have it removed. I mean, this guy is so just disconnected. Talk about alienating an entire fan base. And think about, again, going back to my original point, you're alienating this entire fan base, and you think another group of people in Las Vegas, a world where there's nothing but distractions, is going to embrace you in the way you act, the way you behave? No, thank you. This has disaster written all over it. And I am just, even if you don't think it is, where is just Rob Manfred in defending these actions? Come out and tell us what you think. Tell us why it's not going to be that bad when they get to Vegas. Tell us why it's not going to be that bad being in Sacramento. Explain this. But he is nowhere to be found either when it comes to this. And that just blows my mind.
And I was thinking too, why aren't the other owners going after him? Because I'd be like, you're diminishing like our product. Like
that's what I mean.
All this luxury
I agree.
But then I'm thinking too, like why wouldn't a Cohen be like, listen, you're taking my money when you're not putting a productive team on the field? I just think owners aren't going to step on the feet of other owners because they don't want them coming at them if something ever ends up happening. Like if I go after this guy, who knows when the tables are going to be turned? So you're going to create this design of your stadium's going to look like the Sydney Opera House, and it's going to be fantastic in downtown Las Vegas. Okay, we're just going to placate. We're just going to appease you for now because we don't want you turning the camera on us and then seeing like the bad business that we're doing. Just the whole thing stinks to me. It's like you're going into the Giants minor league field, who, by the way, that team is owned by the same owner that the Sacramento Kings has. So, like, he's like, no, we're not moving the Kings out of Sacramento. We're going to keep them here. But, hey, Oakland, we're going to go steal your team. So we're going to put you in a 14,000-person stadium, which they're not going to sell out. There's not going to be people there either because of the bad taste in your mouth, like you said. Oh, you can go sit out in the lawn and watch the game. Okay, that might be a novelty. I'm not going to do that for 81 games out of the year.
Well,
for me to watch.
And what are you charging ticket prices for? Because I mean, it's one thing if you're charging AAA ticket prices. This is Major League Baseball. Like, what money are you possibly making? You know, because again, like you said, I don't think anyone's going to show up. And if they do, you're not paying Major League Baseball prices to show up, with the exception of maybe an Aaron Judge or a Shohei Ohtani comes to that park. It's awful. It's a terrible, terrible look. But again, I'm tired of complaining about John Fischer. I want to complain more about Rob Manfred. And I want to complain more about the owners as a collective. Because you know what? Yes, if no one should throw stones if they live in glass houses. But if you're in this to be a competitor or if you're in this to make money, how does this situation help your product? It doesn't. They all should be going after John Fischer. Like, you're going back to Oakland. You blew it. Fix your relationship there. Build a new stadium. And if you don't want to do it, get out. Sell the team. We will find somebody else who will.
Yep. Completely agree. And did you see like the parameters for the stadium? It's going to make Yankee Stadium look like the Polo Grounds. Like, the ball's going to be flying out of there. I think it's like 325 to right.
It's just gross.
I think it's like the bare minimum. It's just I feel bad for fans because it's like if you're somebody that has been rooting for that team, like what do you do? Like, do you continue to root for them? You can't root for the Giants. Like, poor Oakland's lost Golden State. They've lost the Raiders. It's like, like if the Mets move, and like the Mets are 3 hours away, if I couldn't watch the Mets on TV, it'd be very hard for me to like continuously like to be a fan. Like that's the reason why I'm a fan, because at 7:10 every night, I'm putting the TV on to watch them. It's just it's a no-win situation, and it's only going to get worse. They're not going to end up in Vegas. They're going to end up like Montreal. They're going to be owned by the league, and it's just going to be they're going to disintegrate. It's going to be like the Oakland or the Athletic Baseball Club. They're going to be nomads. They're not going to have a place to live. And then are they going to end up in Nashville? Are they going to end up in Montreal? Like, it's not going to end well.
And that's not the plan for those cities, at least for Nashville, because Nashville wants an expansion team. That's what they're all about. They're not going to want these guys either.
No,
and so because there are cities who I think are starved for baseball. They want a team. Nashville being
Utah.
one of them. Right. Utah right. Salt Lake being another one. Portland possibly being another one too. Vegas, maybe. I think Vegas would want one if it's the right situation. They want an expansion team. They don't want this mess. They don't want him. They don't want him. And again,
sloppy fifths.
I think even right, if you offered the A's up to another city, I think you'd have the same reaction in Nashville. I think you'd have the same reaction in Salt Lake. I think you'd have the same reaction in San Juan, Puerto Rico, if you wanted to put a team there. They wouldn't. I don't think anyone wants him in the mess that he now brings.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And I don't think it's going to be resolved. And like you said, Manfred's going to hide his head in the stand. He's got more stuff he's got to deal with. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
We're about 12 games into the season, so I figured let's go. Let's dig for third here. So, your biggest surprise, your biggest takeaway, about 11, 12 games, considering like some of the rainouts. What's your biggest takeaway? What are your biggest surprises so far in the short season?
So it's a small sample size. So, we got to see how the entire season plays out. But I was listening to a great podcast, Just Baseball. I love that podcast. If you guys don't listen to that already, the Just Baseball podcast is outstanding. And they started talking about how there have been some surprise teams in terms of team ERA. And one of the teams they were mentioning about, because I got super excited, was our New York Mets and how they're so surprised by the New York Mets this year and how well the pitching actually has been, because, we've talked about it. We were anticipating the absolute worst for the Mets.
It's going to be the worst part of the team.
Yeah, and they're starting pitching. And right now, the Mets rank 7th in in all baseball in team ERA. Now, again, it's a very small sample size. But then I looked at all the teams that had a team ERA below 4. To me, if you have a team ERA below 4, you can compete every single night. You're in every single ballgame every single night. I'm going to consider you a possible playoff contender, especially with the expanded playoffs. And then you look at the teams that are in this top. There's 16 teams that have an team ERA below 4. And I'm looking across this landscape of 16 teams. And I'm going, none of these rotate. Well, there's a few that I think are really good rotations. For example, the Orioles. The Orioles have a two-headed monster at the top of the rotation now in Corbin Burnes and Grayson Rodriguez. Both of those guys could easily compete for the AL Cy Young. Now, Matt, give me someone else going into this season you would expect to pitch for a Cy Young.
So we're going to go with Spencer Strider. We would go with Castillo over in Seattle.
Yep. I would even say George Kirby as well. Yeah. Logan Gilbert as well. In the National League, Yuri Perez. And obviously, this is before we have the knowledge of their injuries. But you have all these guys that you would rattle off, the best odds of winning the Cy Young Award. And I'm looking at these teams, okay? Number 1, team ERA, Boston Red Sox. Number 1, team ERA. When you think of their rotation, do you think of any potential Cy Young winners in that rotation?
I don't know if I can name you 2 starters, and I've actually watched their games.
To me, the best, I would say the best odds of one doing that is Brian Bello. Okay. But again, probably will not consider the top 5, top 10 of AL Cy Young contenders. Number 2 is the Yankees without Garrett Cole. Number 3 is the Guardians, who now, again, Shane Bieber now has season-ending Tommy John surgery. Number 4 are my Royals. I told you I like the makeup of this Royals team. The pitching is there. Now, Cole Reagans might be one of those guys, but you're also talking about a rotation of guys like Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo, these aging veterans. 5 is the Orioles. 6 is the Tigers. Yes, Tariq Skubal, definitely AL Cy Young candidate. Outside of that, who do you have? Matt Manning
good in his starting against the Mets, but again, you're not pushing him past 120 innings.
And again, we're not considering upper echelon starting pitcher in the American League. Matt Manning was one of their better ones. They sent him down for a little bit. Reese Olson, not one of those guys. And they let Eduardo Rodriguez go. Number 7 is the Mets, as we established. Nothing to write home about there. Number 8, the Rangers without Max Scherzer, without Jacob deGrom. No Jack Leiter yet. John Gray got hurt. This is a pieced together rotation. No more Jordan Montgomery. Name guys in their rotation. 9 is the Pirates, who, again, I will say the Pirate talk for another day, but I really like their rotation. 10 is the Twins, Pablo Lopez, bunch of other guys. The Astros, now Framber Valdez is hurt. No Justin Verlander. They're in that mix. The Phillies make sense. Diamondbacks, to me, make sense. The Brewers, no Brandon Woodruff, no more Corbin Burns. They still have a team ERA below 4. The Cubs just lost Justin Steele. They have a team ERA below 4. I ridiculed the Cardinals for their starting pitching additions. They're number 16 on this list. You're going through all these teams. The Mariners aren't there. The Dodgers aren't there. You get all these teams that had these Cy Young caliber guys. The Blue Jays, not there. And what do all these rotations have in common? They don't have a lot of high velo guys. They have guys who throw great stuff, but they also have a lot of veterans who have built up arm strength over the years. Obviously, in our last segment, we get to this issue of arm injuries. And are we going to finally see this transition? I just wonder. And again, this list is probably going to look incredibly different come September. It's probably not going to be all the same teams. But with all the injuries in the sport, it's also possible that this list doesn't change much. Because I look at all these teams in the rotations, they actually have some pretty healthy pitchers who have been historically pretty healthy guys. So that's my big takeaway from this is, again, going to the season as a Mets fan, I thought the rotation and the rotation alone was why we were not going to be able to be competitors in the National League. 2 weeks in, the offense has a myriad of problems still with the Mets, but 2 weeks in, I'm looking at rotation. I'm looking at the rest of the league going, there's a chance. If we figure out our offense, our guys get hitting. Nimmo hits more consistently. He's been better. Lindor hits consistently. McNeil, all those guys. I think we can compete for a wild card spot. And I think a lot of these teams should all be thinking they can compete for playoff spots as well.
My biggest gripe, and again, you're saying small sample size, 2 with the weather. And I always feel like pitching is more advanced and it's further along than the hitting. And then the hitting picks up once the weather gets well. So I don't know if that's it's like a little microcosm now because every game is awful. It's raining, it's cold, it's 40 degrees. So it's like, is that gonna even out in the long run? The other thing that I worry about too, again, with me watching so many Mets games, yes, they've had much better starting pitching, much better pitching than I would have ever expected. They signed Julio Teheran to pitch 2.5 innings the other day and pay him $2.5 million.
And it worked.
I worry about these rotations that are lacking these studs. When we get to June, July, August, when those innings on the bullpens, because they're a 5-in-flight team now. But I don't know if that's baseball changing where it's like, look, we need to go through the lineup twice and then we're going to go to the bullpen. But how many teams are going to be able to be 8 deep in the bullpen where I can rely on these guys to go multiple innings? How many pitchers have the Mets gone through already where it's like you bring a guy up and then you designate him for assignment? It's just continuously, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep this without having that stud, that bulldog at the top of the rotation where, I'm giving you the ball and you're giving me 7. I don't know if they're going to be able to have that longevity where it's, okay, we need to get 18 outs, 15 outs from our bullpen every night.
But the problem is in the sport, even prior to all these injuries, it's something we talked about too in one of our episodes where we previewed the season. It's hard to find any pitcher in baseball that is that bulldog guy. There's only a handful of pitchers that can pitch 200-plus innings. Bulldogs now, to me, are guys who can pitch 180 innings. To me, that's a significant achievement. So I don't know. I look at these rotations, and let's just say Yankees as an example. Garrett Cole is the bulldog in baseball right now, and unfortunately, he's sidelined with his injury. But he's a guy, yes, typically you depend upon to pitch 200, 220 innings. But then you look at the Yankees' rotations over the years and how they had so many interchangeable parts. I think that's a big reason why they haven't been able to sustain success. But now you look at the Yankee rotation and just them adding a guy like a Marcus Stroman, who, again, just goes about the 5-6 innings of work at max, giving up 3, 4, even if it's a 5-run day. You have an offense like that, you are still in the ball game. I think dependability in the rotation has become more important than, I think, the stuff of your rotation, the dominance of your rotation, the intimidation factor of the rotation. Give me 4 or 5 guys that have rubber arms I can throw out there, and I know they can go 4, 5, 6 innings, and even if they give up 4, even if they give up 5, we're still in the ball game. And I think that's how the sport might be transitioning a little bit, because, and again, we're kind of going into our 4th segment a little bit with this conversation.
Let's go there. Let's go into segment 4. So let's come home. So keep going with it. Go ahead.
All right. So then this is what I'll say for this. I do wonder if, with all these injuries this year, guys throwing high velo, high spin rate, all the stuff that they're doing, owners have to start looking at this and going, okay, this is a problem. And because this is a problem that I can't depend upon these guys, I'm not paying these guys anymore. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened to Blake Snell on the market. Look at what happened to Jordan Montgomery on the market. And these are 2 pitchers you could argue are bulldogs in their own right. These are guys who have rubber arms. These are guys who are pretty super dependable. And they didn't get paid. Corbin Burns hits the market next year. Is it a guarantee that someone's giving him a 6-7-year contract for $30 million a season? I don't see that happening either. I wonder if he's one of these guys who's waiting until next March or maybe even next April and signing a 3-4 year prove-it deal again. Because how, as an owner or as a general manager, can you invest so much capital into a position that's so volatile in terms of, dude, yes, you have 99-mile-per-hour fastball. You throw a 92 exploding slider. You have an 86-mile-per-hour sweeper. And in one failed swoop, you're done. It's over. Yep. Your year's over. Next year is a mystery. And then you have to wonder, can this guy become what he once was again? I think they'll keep signing these guys. They'll keep finding them in their system. But the way the current contract structure works with arbitration, when these guys hit free agency, I don't see them getting paid. I just don't. And I just wonder if that will actually force starting pitchers to change their philosophy. Maybe I don't need to throw 99. Maybe I can figure out how to live at 95. Look at Chris Sale right now. Again, small sample size. Chris Sale is by far the Braves' best starting pitcher right now. Max Fried is not pitching well. Strider's on the shelf. But Sale's only throwing 95. He's topping at like 95. He's not throwing 99 anymore. Those days are gone. I think, hopefully for his situation, he's learned how to do that. And I think other pitchers are going to have to figure that out as well, or else they're not going to see the dollar signs.
I completely agree with you. If you're looking at the pitchers that are now on the shelf for this year, like, why would you, as these owners are businessmen, why are you going to give a 13-year contract like Yamamoto when you know at any point their arm they're going to have Tommy John. They're going to have Tommy John probably twice. And this is like my whole argument with like Pittsburgh. It's like you've got this gem that you're wasting bullets in the minor leagues.
Yep.
Like, okay, he might not be ready. Maybe he needs a little bit of seasoning. I don't want to waste those bullets in AAA when you're playing the Indians. Like, I totally agree. Why are you doing that to me? It's a matter of time before you're going to go under the knife. If we keep on just pushing velo and spin rate, and I was trying to think, I'm like, what is the cause of this? because like you have all the stats, and I looked up the stats. So in 2016, we had 190 different pitchers have Tommy John. By 2022, it's 274. Okay,
Yep.
so we went from about 26% pitchers to 34% of pitchers getting Tommy John in a year. So like this is not going anywhere with what we're doing. Whether it's this max effort, every single pitch that you have, you're going to throw as hard as you can, as much spin rate as you can, light up the radar gun, because that's how we get outs. We can't get outs anymore by throwing a change-up first pitch, having you roll it over, get an easy ground ball. We need to throw 98. We need to have X amount of vertical movement. We've got to have X amount of like depth movement. Like that's what they're pushing. So I'm thinking, where is this coming from? I think like when I was pitching, of course you want to be the hot shot. You want to light up the radar gun, but that's all we had. But now with me, like at school and not coaching, but having like good relationship with kids that are playing baseball at varsity, are going to play at college, what they talk to me about is, oh, Mr. G, my spin rate on my curveball is this. I'm like, how are you possibly determining your spin rate? Oh, I've got this little gun that my dad holds, and he can tell my spin rate. And I'm like, okay, you're so like, okay, I really got to snap this off. Every time you snap it off to get more revolutions on a curveball, the torque that it does on your elbow, and you're 17. You can't even curl like 50 pounds. And this is like the repeated torque that you're putting on your arm.
So when I was coaching varsity baseball, one of the drills, the drill, it's the way pitchers warm up, is they take those heavy, like kind of like medicine balls, but they're like their size of baseballs, and they throw them as hard as they can against the fence. And it's to build arm strength. And they'll say, oh, it's to break up lactic acid in the shoulder and all that stuff. And it's like, no. Throwing a baseball is the most unnatural movement in all of sports. Our bodies are not designed to continuously do this, especially with the heavy object in your arm. And the more pressure you put on all those ligaments because of weight training, which is a big reason why this is happening, exposure to these pitches at early ages. I'm talking about high school and even, you look at the Little League World Series. I've been saying that for years too, but the Little League World Series. Why do you not see a lot of these guys coming up as pitchers, these 12-year-old phenoms as pitchers coming up? Because their arms are probably dead. They've been throwing sliders and curveballs since 11. That's not natural. And until we change the way we treat our pitchers, these young arms, especially the youth levels, I don't really see it changing, because you're right. It's all about impressing that one scout. And what impresses scouts? Velo and spin rate. So it's this really toxic environment. And I'm not blaming the scouts. You have a job to do. You got to find the best arms there, or else you're out of a job. I get it. I think this is going to take serious time. And unfortunately, the situation is going to need to get worse before it gets better. I don't think we're out of the dark woods yet. More arm injuries are coming. And I think until we finally reach rock bottom, which what scares me is we haven't reached it yet, I don't think you will be seeing much change. And the Players Union can complain about the pitch clock. And listen, I'm sure that doesn't help, but that's definitely not that's not what's causing this. It's part of the problem. I'm sure it is. But that's not the reason why this is happening, because Tommy John surgeries, as you said, have been on a skyrocket pathway for years now. So there is a multifaceted problem that stems way beyond Major League Baseball. It's what we do to these kids. It's how we let these high school pitchers pitch. And also the fact they play baseball all year long. There's no more, hey, I play football in the fall, I play basketball in the winter, and then I'll pitch. They're pitching all year long. And the arm's not meant to do that either.
And they don't know how to pitch. I don't know how many kids I've talked to where you just try and run them through like situations like reading a batter's swing. What are you throwing next? They don't know how to pitch. It's going max effort. I'm going to put as much torque on my body as physically possible, get as much velocity behind it as I can, and not learning how to pitch. Not learning about how to locate, on how to try and nibble a little bit off the strike zone to get somebody to expand the zone. There's none of that. And they don't teach that. And again, I don't want to sound like the old curmudgeon where it's like back in my day, but it was like you learned how to pitch. So, like, what's wrong if I'm up in the count 0-1? Okay, I might elevate a fastball to change your eye level. Then I'm going to drop a curve in the dirt because your eye level's up here and now you're looking like they don't think
oh
that.
my God.
It's
yeah.
just,
I've
I
had
throw 90 miles an hour.
Countless.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, countless conversations with high school kids about that. The concept of changing eye levels. You know, trying to. It's like a game of chess. It's what's the next move? You know, again, like as a hitter, as much as you're covering the whole plate, the human instinct is, okay, I'm looking for something, and usually I'm looking for a certain spot. You know, I'm looking high and in, I'm looking low and away. I mean, that's what made Greg Maddux the magician that he was. But not even just Maddux, but even guys who did throw hard, they understood that concept as well. Like Randy Johnson, for example. Yes, his arm angle, yes, his height, but Randy Johnson, I think, knew better than anyone how to change eye levels to a batter. You know, how to pop that 101-mile-per-hour fastball in the outside corner, and then, boom, the slider drops off. It's the back foot slider to strike out the righty, you know? But then he would elevate it high inside or go low and outside or reverse pitch. And, yeah, I think high school kids have a hard time with those concepts. And I think as much as when we played, we kind of understood them. I think we understand them better as we've gotten older and seen more baseball being played. But yeah, the obsession is the stuff, and it's the stuff that's leading to these injuries. It's not natural.
When I was hitting, if again, not high level baseball, but if somebody threw high 80s, which was fast to me, if it was straight and you had nothing secondary, I'm going to be able to time it up. And even in the major leagues now, if you throw 100 and it's a straight flat 100, it's going to get hit.
Look at Yamamoto.
My dad yelling at me, being like, "Change speeds. You have to change speeds." And like, there's no teaching of that. It's just this. I like you brought up Stroman before, who I hate as a person, but as a pitcher, he's sitting 92. He cuts it, he sinks it, and he's an effective major league pitcher. Seth Lugo was watching a Royals game when they're playing the White Sox. He's topping out at like 93. Now, I know his spin rate on his curveball is ridiculous, but he sinks it. He spots it. When Cohen talks about the Rays, it's always about, I'm going to have my catcher set up in the middle of the plate, and I'm going to let the natural movement of my pitch move to the corners. I'm going to stay out of the middle, and I'm going to let my ball move to where it has to go. Like, whatever happened to that instead of just rearing back, and here we go. I don't have to be Brad Pitt to get a supermodel. Like, it's okay to be average sometimes to get out, and I don't think that's going to happen.
And I think baseball set up. And I think that's where the owners over these next few years are going to be very hesitant on these general managers shelling out millions of dollars for the quote unquote top end pitching, because top end pitching is not the safest bet like it was when we were growing up, because these arm injuries are only getting worse.
My last point. So when I looked at all of like the major contracts that are like a big albatross, so I looked at the top 30, and I was talking to you a little bit about this before. Here are some of the highest annual value contracts. Verlander, IL. Scherzer, IL. DeGrom, IL. Strasburg, retired. We have
it's so sad.
Carlos Rondon. What do you think the Yankees feel?
Listen, he's pitched well. He's pitched better this year. Okay.
This year.
Yep. And it's still early. Yep.
But it's just these pitchers. Patrick Corbin's another one. All these pitchers that you're giving these major contracts to.
Yep.
Again, if I'm a businessman, I'm not investing in you more than 3 years, knowing I might only get a year and a half out of you.
Nope. I totally agree.
2 years out of you.
I totally agree.
I think, like you said, once Boris realizes, look, these guys aren't signing 10 years, $300 million contracts anymore. They're getting 2-year deals. Maybe the velo drops. I'm making 31 starts in a year. You'll be more likely to give me money if I'm sitting 92 and can get 21 outs in a game.
Again, I'm not trying to say the Mets are World Series contenders now. I'm not at all. But you look at the way the rotation's sitting right now. The quality innings you're getting out of guys like Quintana and Minaya. Severino looked a little bit better. Buto looked okay. Tehran gives us 3 innings here and there, fine. And then all of a sudden, Kodai Senga comes back, and then Christian Scott comes up, and you look at the Mets, and all of a sudden they have kind of like a plethora of arms, of guys they can throw out there. And I almost wonder, again, is that more the recipe of success going forward in Major League Baseball? Is it just having that collection of dependable arms that you can rely on? Like the Diamondbacks last year did it with 3 guys, with Merrill Kelly and Braden Pfaadt and Zach Gallen, kind of going off in the postseason. You look at the Rangers. The Rangers, to me, are the better example because they lost out on DeGrom. Scherzer wasn't the same Scherzer anymore. They kind of created this stable of reliable pitchers that they threw out there. Because if you looked at that Ranger rotation going into the playoffs without DeGrom, a banged-up Max Scherzer, and I asked you back in April, hey, with this rotation and winning the World Series, everyone would have been like, absolutely not. But they were able
to Baldy to carry you.
Yes, absolutely. No one would have signed up for that. And I just wondered, it may not be the Mets. I don't think it's necessarily the Red Sox either. But you look at the Guardians rotation and the Royals rotation, and all these different teams that are in the mix. I think the lesson we should learn from last year is it's possible. It's definitely possible. You don't need to have 2 or 3 Cy Young caliber pitchers in your rotation to win a World Series. And general managers keep their jobs by going to the playoffs, by going and winning World Series. And I think that's what's going to – and hopefully that's what changes this.
And I just want to let you know that within the next 3 weeks, when 3 of the Mets starters go down because you called them reliable.
Oh, 100%. Oh,
personally responsible.
That's fair. That is fair, and you can hold me personally responsible. I'm just using them as I'm not saying the Mets are going to the playoffs. I'm not saying it.
Too many years of.
But they could. I'm just saying. I'm just saying they could.
I like it. We kept it to about 62 minutes right now.
There you go.
I think it was concise. I feel like there's good.
I agree.
So what do you think about this?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think? Let's do when we do our next one. So a little preview for the next. I want to do definitely a little initial reaction to Met City Connect when it drops on Friday.
Sure.
So look out for that on Instagram. Just instant raw.
Love it.
Reaction to it.
Love it.
And then what do you have working for you?
So I want to talk about something more fun next time. I mean, listen, it's not our fault because baseball has really been kind of a downer with the news they've been. I mean, the Ohtani stuff, the Oakland A stuff, now this arm injury stuff. I want to do more fun things, okay? I'm not going to throw anything out there just quite yet, but let's anticipate hopefully our audience has a little more fun next time they tune in because we're going to be talking about some fun stuff, I think.
Let's be a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah, a little more optimistic.
All right.
See what happens.
Well, until the next scandal, something else happens.
Yeah,
somebody else's arm blows up.
Exactly. Or Ohtani murders somebody. I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be good content for us.
Yeah, well, it might be.
All right.
All right,
guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You made it to the very end. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. Help us out. And until next time.
See you later.